Welcome to the Endure Hunt Podcast. Join me as I share my experiences as an emergent hunter, offer advice on how to overcome challenges, and pursue your passion for hunting. This is episode 19 of the podcast. I am calling it Once a Marine, Always a Marine with Cary Beason from the Salty Yak podcast. He is one of the first people that reached out to me and discovered my podcast when I started doing it earlier this year. It's been awesome to connect with him online and now in person. We got to meet, go to his family's property. We actually got to hunt together. We're going to talk about all of that and more. Now, if you've been watching or listening to this podcast for a while, you know that I like to do video podcasts. Unfortunately, one of the camera's data got corrupted, and we only have one camera angle, which is of me during the podcast. So if you're watching this on YouTube, unfortunately, there's only one angle. Sorry about that. If you are listening to this on Spotify or any of the other podcasting platforms, it's just going to be audio only. I'm just releasing it audio. I know I usually do the Spotify video, but I wanted to just do this audio only because, well, one camera angle kind of stinks, and I didn't want to just have a screenshot of something for the duration of the episode on YouTube. So you get to see my face. Take it or leave it, I guess. Anyway, I'll stop talking now. This is a great episode. I had an awesome time meeting Cary, and I can't wait to hang out with him again.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Cary.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
So, welcome to our podcast, since we're doing this together this time.
Yep.
If you're listening to me on my podcast, The Salty Yak, you know that I'm your host, Cary Beason. And if you're listening to Andrew...
Yeah, so I am the Andrew the Kosovic, host of the Endure Hunt podcast. We're doing a joint podcast today. We just finished a lovely whitetail hunt this morning, and we're getting caught up with each other now.
So, this is it's the norm now. Meeting people on social media and then meeting them face to face, right? Because I think I found you on social media.
Yeah, you found me first, for sure.
And then,
go ahead.
I found you, and I'm like, hey, here's a former Marine that loves hunting as much as I do. I'm going to follow along with him. And started listening to your podcast and realized you like you say, you're an emergent hunter.
Yep.
And I'm not. But we talked with my boys today. They're lucky enough, they grew up with me hunting. You didn't necessarily have that experience. Mm-hmm. But I was like, hey, and just listening to your podcast, watching your social media, I'm like, hey, he lives kind of in the area where the farm is. Let's have him up. Let's come. We'll hunt. We'll record a podcast. We'll get to know each other. And people, it's amazing how many friendships I have made just through this podcast.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I started hunting 6 years ago, and I have taken 2 whitetail bucks in my life in those 6 years. And this is mostly for the Salty Yak Outdoors podcast, since none of y'all know who I am. In those 6 years, I've hunted 6 different states, a lot of different species, and I've tried to get as much out of the few years of hunting that I have experience-wise, and trying to get as much of them out as I can. So it's been a lot of fun. And I don't know why you started listening to my podcast. So for those of you who are listening, if you listen to my podcast, please do not listen to the first 3 or 4 episodes because I did not have a microphone set up, and it's not pretty, just to say the least.
I was there too. I told you. I literally had like little lapel mics that hooked into my phone, and that's what I was recording it off my phone.
Yeah.
So we all progress, and you have an amazing. For those of us, actually, you're videoing this because you put yours on YouTube.
I do. Yep.
So you'll be able to see our the whole double setup because we're double recording. We're recording for my podcast and his podcast on the exact same thing. So we literally have 4 mics between the 2 of us.
Yeah, looks great. I'm definitely going to need to find a way to stitch this a picture and just post it on both of our pages. The ridiculousness that is 4 microphones right now.
We'll have to take a selfie with this, and we can make it like the episode thumbnail or something like that.
Oh, that'll be perfect.
Do something like that. So you started hunting in, what did you say?
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
In New Jersey.
No, Montana.
Montana.
My first hunt, so I was deployed, and my buddy Peter, who's been on a few of my episodes, his now wife got him she went through an outfitter, and basically when you go through an outfitter in Montana, you can buy an extra point, so it helps you get your tag. and he got a general deer elk combination license. So no special tag, but back then you could get it with 1 point. So you go through an outfitter DIY, you get the guided help for getting the point. So the outfitter, you get the extra point. Back then you were guaranteed a tag, basically. Well, she did this for him for, I don't know, birthday, Christmas, something. And he messages me. I had email and some text message, like, you couldn't send text. It was like Facebook Messenger or something. And I had never hunted before, no experience hunting. But at that time, I had been in the Marines 6 years, and I learned to shoot in the Marines too. I never held a gun before that. But you know how it is. You shoot out to 500 yards every year. I learned how to shoot on iron sights. So I was pretty comfortable with a rifle. And he messages me, and he's like, I got this. I don't know anyone else that I would trust asking to go on a hunt, especially in Montana in November for elk and mule deer. Do you have any interest in going with me? And at the time, I had actually been interested in going on a hunt because through my time in the Marines, I learned about, being self-sufficient. I started paying more attention to things. I love the whole trying to get off the grid, taking care of yourself, being versatile. And I was getting ready for that kind of stuff. And I think I was just waiting for someone to invite me. And yeah, he asked me while I was deployed, and I did Hunter's Education, Texas, actually. I was a New Jersey resident still, but Texas had online Hunter's Ed that you could do without a field day.
Yep.
So I did the Texas online Hunter Education and got my hunter safety card, emailed it to the outfitter while I was deployed, and coordinated everything through them. And then, I don't know, 9 months later, we were in Montana hunting.
It boggles my mind that you jumped off in the deep end of the pool to go out west to chase elk and mule deer. I mean, I chased whitetails here in Texas, 30 years before I even thought about trying to do that. And you jump off in the deep end of the pool the very first time. So...
yeah, it's funny. So the outfitter, the way we stayed at their camp, they had like a ranch, and it was really cool. So it was all public land that we were hunting, but we stayed in their lodge, and they had this nice big hall. And every morning and every evening, they would serve breakfast and dinner, and everyone ate together. It was a big like ballroom.
Yeah,
and there were a bunch of guys there, and every single person said the exact same thing when they found out that was my first hunt. They're like, we just got a foot of snow. The high temperature this week is 15 degrees, not accounting for wind chill. And this is your first time hunting? It's like, look, Marines aren't known for being intelligent.
You eat a lot of crayons.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, that was the first experience. We were out there for about a week. And that elk hunt quickly turned into a mule deer hunt because we could not find an elk to save our lives. Found plenty of mule deer, could not get close enough. And they wanted us to take 3x3s is what they call them. They wanted it to at least be 3 points on each side. And we found one, but he was 300 yards, and neither of us were comfortable taking that shot at the time. But we found a lot of young bucks, just couldn't seal the deal. Couldn't get them close enough. But it was it after that. I started bow hunting in New Jersey the next season, got my wife roped up into it. And I've gone out west every year since.
Let's see. You're talking 2 whitetails. But you've already Montana, Wyoming, Arizona,
and
Utah.
Yeah, and New Jersey and Texas are the other 2 states.
Yeah. I'm envious.
Well, so I recently as of recording this podcast, the podcast I'm about to talk about is not live, but it goes live in a few days. I had Ken Boucher from First Gen Hunter on. He's in Iowa, and basically all he does is hunt in Iowa. He's going on a mule deer hunt in Nebraska with a muzzleloader this year, actually. But we talked about this a little bit. I don't remember if it was on his podcast or mine, where you get depth of knowledge and breadth of knowledge. And I feel like I have a breadth of knowledge because I've hunted in a bunch of different states for different species, but I'm not an expert in any of them. Like, don't get me wrong, I can go into a space and I can generally figure out how to find animals. But the depth of knowledge that you have on the farm and I don't know what the other place is called we were at this morning, but the knowledge that you have of those places, I'm nowhere near that. But I do have a lot of different experiences, and I like to think that it's helped me grow as a hunter and start learning things.
The more you chase whatever it is, whitetail, mule deer, elk, there's a lot of it that transfers over. You know, when it comes to shooting, the shooting time, whether it's your bow or with your rifle, doesn't matter whether it's an elk or a mule deer or a whitetail. Same with the bow. Finding them, could be a little different, but I find myself pretty good at finding stuff. Even though it might not be in a place that I can hunt, I can find it. But where I see I guess there's a gap in what I do, and it's the stalking.
Yeah.
So I have done some stalking. The now guy has taught me a whole lot, but that's where my weak point is. I'm good at finding them. If I get close enough, I can kill them. But it's the learning how to stalk into it. Because you saw our setup over there.
Yeah.
And you were talking about your first hunt there in Montana, and that's what I was thinking about was, so when somebody comes out for their first ever deer hunt with me, we go over and we sit in the Taj Mahal, usually. You know, and if it's cold, I'll turn on the heater.
Yeah.
If you want a cup of coffee, we'll have a cup of coffee. And we can sit there and kind of low talk whisper. We recorded a podcast in the Taj Mahal one time.
No way.
Yep.
Hold on real quick. The Taj Mahal is a rifle blind. It's a very nice blind that is on one of the properties.
That's somebody's first experience hunting, not hunting in 10-degree weather with a foot of snow, hiking up mountains. You know, it's a great experience, but man, if it wasn't you, if it was somebody else, they might have been like, this hunting is not for me.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like your experience is a better way to get new people into it. I'm just stubborn. Like the reason that the Endure Hunt podcast is called Endure Hunt is because it's a play on the words enduring and hunter, because the only way I have found success is because I'm just too stupid to give up and I just keep trying.
Well, that's a plus, because you will find it.
Yes.
So, and you have found it.
Oh, yeah.
So we were talk, you had some questions, or we were talking a little chat about Utah a little bit.
Yeah.
What was your...
Well, I figured you just went... This was your first elk hunt this year, right?
First ever elk hunt, period.
Yes. So I've gone to Utah twice. This was your first time. I figured we could talk about, how we planned the scouting, because you actually went up there to scout before, and I didn't do that.
I took a week ahead to go look at it, because doesn't matter how much you e-scout it, it always looks different on foot.
Yes.
Always. And when we pulled up to the first trailhead, and I looked at those 1,000-foot up canyons, and I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be hard. And it was fun, but it was the type 2 fun.
It's the best kind.
But I told you what my work schedule is. So I had to take 2 days off. I got 7, so I string it into 7 days. So I was like, drive up there, scout 5 days, drive back. And if I can, I will always make a scouting trip to wherever I go if I haven't been there before. Yeah. But it was, well worth it. I would do it again.
See, for me, everywhere I've gone, I've had no choice but to rely on e-scouting. Like Montana's 2 days of just driving, and I'm going to be there for 10 days total, including the drive, actually. So it'll be 7 days of hunting, I think, and then the rest of it I'm going to add on driving.
Well, your first 2 days are going to be hunting, but you're scouting with a gun in your hand.
Yes, so very much. And fortunately, the season's really long, so we've got plenty of time. We don't have to worry about that. But everywhere I've gone, it's always been need to e-scout first, then go, because the time commitment to drive. And the honest truth, the reason I've traveled more is because I've never had a place to hunt. In New Jersey, the nice thing was, I still wanted to go out west because, let's be honest, it's a lot of fun. Once you start glassing and then spot and stalk, it's really hard to get yourself to sit in a tree stand exclusively. Honestly.
I have not taken my bow out of the case this entire weekend.
Yeah.
I just sit with our buddy, my buddy Sisto the other day. He killed his first deer with his bow. Shout out to 6 on that one. But I'd much rather take people hunting. Whitetails, right?
Yeah.
If I couldn't hunt whitetails here, I would be okay with that, because I would do what you do. I would go out west. I would have, multiple hunts in a year out west, and I could live with that. But I'm lucky enough to have a couple little spots where, the family can hunt, and bring friends and acquaintances that are becoming friends out here. Just have a good time, right? I remember growing up, some of the best times I had with my dad. We had deer camp. This is not deer camp.
No.
We go to his house and I'll cook eggs and bacon and all that. But deer camp was some of the best times that we had hanging out. I miss deer camp a lot because when I come up here, like you'll see, I've got a little bit of tractor work to do here before we go deer hunt this afternoon.
Okay.
But I'm like, there's always work to do here. But deer camp was always fun. Mm-hmm. But it's nice. But the whole point was I could be happy just hunting pronghorn and antelope, or pronghorn and mule deer and elk and maybe occasional guy every now and then, and I'd be good. Sprinkled with a little kayak fishing thrown in there, I could be good.
Yeah.
But it is nice to have a little place to go.
Yeah. There's something about whitetails, and I think it's because it was the first thing that I found success with, that I'm just like, I really love chasing whitetails. The problem now is, now that I've had axis, pronghorn, and elk, they all taste better than whitetails. Don't get me wrong, love whitetails. But man, when the freezer starts getting low, it's like I get itching to want to go back out. Fortunately, elk take a long time to go through. I've got plenty of elk still in the freezer. But one of the things, actually, not to change subjects, one of the things that I've really enjoyed when I started hunting, I wanted to get us off of buying as much meat as possible.
Yes.
We have not had to buy beef for my little family, just my wife and me, in 3 years. Mm-hmm. And that has been awesome. And I love telling people that, because a lot of people are like, you've not bought beef in 3 years?
And with the price of it?
I mean, and it's just nice. It's like, I know every single piece of this animal, whatever it is. I know the whole story. I killed it. For the most part, I butcher everything myself. I won't lie. I use a processor, because they make this processor that I use at Side Hutto. Mm-hmm. They make the best breakfast sausage. Mm-hmm. They make the best smoked sausage and elk snack sticks, which reminds me, when we go out this evening, I got some elk snack sticks that we can snack on when we get started.
Sweet.
They're just so good. I have some of the equipment, but I do not have the know-how to make it taste that dang good. But all the big cuts, I do everything myself.
I could break him down. I could cut him into steaks, roast, that kind of thing. But for convenience-wise, I will use a processor. And like I said, I've got a guy. He makes the best and the most tenderest jerky that I've ever had.
I love jerky.
And I can make jerky, but mine, it's a little dry. I can't figure out, because I'm just using a dehydrator that you would buy off Amazon, right? Mm-hmm. Just blowing warm air with the fan. Can't figure out exactly how to keep it tender and still get it to cure. Whatever he does, whatever black magic he sprinkles on that, I don't know. But it's tender, it's flavorful, and it's jerky. It's not, you can leave it out and it's not going to spoil.
Love it.
But the whole thing of knowing where your meat came from. You don't have to, I grew up out here. We raised cattle out here when my grandfather had the farm. So I've been to many sale auctions, been to the slaughterhouses. It's not pretty.
No.
And in knowing that you've the satisfaction that you've taken it yourself, the confidence, and now you're providing, meat for your family. We are hunters. We were hunters thousands of years ago. It's in our DNA. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really interesting. So when you came back to it, how old were you?
When I started hunting? 25 or 26.
And I've got guys there at work that they're your age now, they're late 20s, 30s, 40s, and they're, I think it's that DNA primordial tug that they want to go hunting. Mm-hmm. If they weren't exposed to it early on, didn't have anybody in their life that did it, there's guys that, I took one last year, and I'm taking at least one, maybe two this year, that, they have hung around me enough, and they're like, I think I would like to try that. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I will make it happen.
That's awesome.
I love taking somebody new. And you were like, let me just try this. You just had the something inside you said, I want to go hunting.
I like challenges, I think, is a big part of it. And
we could have ran a triathlon or something like that.
Yeah, you could run a triathlon, but I'm telling you that this is a lot more fun than running a triathlon.
Yeah, amen.
The thing that I like too is the mental game. Mm-hmm. Like when I was in the Marines, despite, muscles are required, intelligence not expected. Despite that name, my job was intel, and it was all critical thinking. Assessing, trying to figure out what are the bad guys going to do? How do we get around them? How do we predict what they're going to do and try and get ahead of them and make mission planning and all that stuff? And then when I was deployed, we were actually talking to people and getting information from them to use planning. And I like the chess match, I think, is a big thing too. Plus, being in the middle of the mountains is just, there's nothing quite like it. There's no cell phone service, and you're completely disconnected. Especially, the thing that is definitely an ego part of it. I love, like when I was in Utah last year, we were bow hunting, and anyone who's hunted public land in Utah for elk, I'm sure mule deer is similar. It seems like everyone and their grandmother owns a side-by-side in Utah. And when we were driving up, we don't even make it to the trailhead because this road is so awful, which I listened to your podcast. Now you experience your fair share of rough roads in Utah. And we get out on this one spot, we park, and we hike in 5-6 miles. And we did the same thing in 2020 when we went. Part of me really enjoys when someone asks me and they're like, you hiked that far in and you stayed there. I'm like, yeah, I did. I carried everything I need for a week on my back and hiked 6 miles away from the trailhead to try and get away from people like you. Nothing against them. I appreciate everybody who's doing it, but the vast majority of the guys hunting, they use their UTVs. They hunt the morning, the evening. They're not out there in the middle of the day. They maybe hike 2 miles in. They don't see anything. They turn around and hang out at the camp and drink beer. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's your job.
If that's what they want to do.
Yeah, if that's what you want to do, that's great. But I love being out there. I like doing difficult things. I like challenging myself. I like trying to overcome adversity. And, we talked about it. I don't think we were in the stand this morning, but we talked about 75. No, we were in the blind, and we talked about 75 hard very briefly. And that's something that I enjoyed doing because no one else is doing it. Like there's something about doing difficult things, and it's totally an ego thing knowing that no one else is doing it. There's something rewarding about that.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's the challenge. Like, I started doing the ice baths.
Oh, yeah.
Like, month and a half. Of course, we're doing the shift PT like I was telling you about. But we're PTing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And so it's 100 plus. We're running, doing this, that, and the other. So it actually felt really good. But I'm a little older, and I'd heard about this, doing it to help with your muscle soreness. And sure enough, it drastically reduced my muscle soreness after, I would do it after every workout, and next day, no problem at all. So still doing them, still love them.
Yeah.
But there's also a big mental part of that. Especially, I love, maybe I'm a little bit of a masochist, because I'll get some of my people to do it. And I tell them, you just got to get past the first 30 seconds, because your mind is just telling you, get out of the water.
Yep.
And you just got to fight it. And once you make the first 30 seconds, it's not that bad. The first time is always the worst. The second time, Now I don't even flinch getting it's generally 40 to 45 degrees. Generally don't even flinch. Go all the way down, go into the water, come back up. 3 to 5 minutes. Good to go.
Good for you. I've done cold showers. I actually do enjoy doing cold showers, but it doesn't get nearly as cold. It's the same thing, though. Those first 30, 45 seconds, once you get past that, you're good. You can go 5 minutes. Part of 75 Hard Phase 2 is you're supposed to do a 5-minute cold shower every morning.
Yeah.
And, I did that, and it sucked. After a certain amount of time, you start shivering, but it doesn't even feel cold anymore. It's just, you can't control it. You just start shivering.
I was doing an ice bath. I didn't usually set a timer, but it's just boring sitting there with nothing. So I said, hey, I'll use a song. Turn the playlist on, play a song. Those are generally 3 or 4 minutes. First time I did this, push play, Fred Bear came on, Ted Nugent. And I didn't think nothing about it. So I'm going to stay here for the whole song. I get out later, and my teeth were, I was literally shaking when I got out. And it's like 7.5 minutes long song. And I'm like, well, no wonder, you idiot.
Yeah, that's tough.
A little longer than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. So you talked about deer camp. And one of the things that I think about often is I feel like hunting provides as close as a brotherhood camaraderie that you can get from in the military.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you felt that way too.
Yes. And the great thing about hunting versus being in the military, you get to pick the people you're going to spend 10 days with, right? I mean, but this is true. We laugh about it because military, you just get stuck with whoever, right? But you see your groups gravitate together, whatever. But the hunting, you really do pick your hunting partner. And it's really got to be somebody that you can hang out with, that you mesh together very well with, that you're willing to hang out, 10, 12 days. Hunting camp, you mentioned, the guys driving the side-by-sides drinking beer. There are some guys, when we had a hunting camp, my dad's company had one, so I'd go up there and help fill feeders and do all that. They went there to drink beer and spend the weekend away from their wives.
Yep.
That's all they wanted to do. They didn't care if they got in the deer stand or not. And I'm like, you're crazy. I want to hunt every minute that I can.
Yep.
Everybody goes for their own reasons, so you got to find somebody that's going for the same reasons as you.
Yep.
And
they also
go at the same
capable.
speed. Yeah, they got to be capable. My buddy Curtis, he's a few years older than I am, but not many. But he's in good shape, and we hunt. So we've been hunting mule deer together for probably 12 years. We make a good pair. When we're glassing stuff, he's I mentioned this on the podcast the other day, but so when you and Peter are sitting there glassing and you see something and then you try to tell him where it's at.
Oh no.
The more you hunt with somebody, the more in sync you are with them. Because me and Curtis, literally, he's found it out and within 11 seconds of him finding it, he told me where it was, and I found it. There was one guy who never found it.
Yeah.
But you get more in sync with your person, the guy that or the group that you're hunting with.
Yep.
So, it's certainly some of the strongest bonds I believe.
Oh yeah.
That we as men have, or as hunters, outdoorsmen, occurred in because in fishing I love the fish, but we're not spending 10 days together.
Yeah.
Living together in the back because you're going to see them at their worst. You're going to see them at their best, right?
Yeah.
And you just grow together. You make you end up being like you probably were lifelong friends before you started, or close to it. But
yeah, but you can make new friends too. That's
True.
the thing. And it's like in the military, the reason the bonds are so strong is because you're going through shared miserable experiences. Do the same thing in hunting, and it's great because you're choosing the experience, you're choosing the people, and then you do get to see them at their highest and their lowest.
We'll think about, so what do you and me have in common?
Well, we're both Marines.
So just that alone, and they drilled this into us in boot camp, right? That you always help your fellow Marine.
Yep.
Always. And still to this day, when you run across somebody and you find out that he's a former Marine too, you at least have a little bit of a common bond because you both did the same thing.
Yep.
Living in New Jersey, you went to Paris Island.
I did.
So I was a Hollywood Marine, obviously.
Yep.
West of the Mississippi, but but we're still in the Marine Corps.
Yep.
You were in intelligence. I was a gun bunny. We loaded the big gun and we shot the big gun. That's all we did. But it doesn't matter because we've had even though we weren't in at the same time, we still had the same experience in a very general way. Yeah, I'm sure boot camp when you went in was a little different than when I went in.
Yeah.
And where you were stationed, but we all had, we were in the Marines, and like they've always said, once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yeah.
But just when I see somebody, like I'm on Instagram, and I see that they're a Marine, they're in the outdoors, I'll follow them. If they're a veteran, and they've got an Instagram thing going on, outdoor themed, I'm all in.
Yep.
Because I know that's something that we share. Because at work, we have a lot of prior military guys at work, and we always are. It's always, Marines against the Army.
I was going to say we have the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same wherever you go, but don't pick on a veteran because then you'll have all of them on you. So anyway, it's just that common bond starts that, and then the hunting stuff. if you like hunting, you like fishing, we're going to have something to talk about. We're going to be friends.
Yeah.
And who knows if that turns into hunting buddies or fishing buddies, but you never know. But you got something in common that you're starting off with. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about Utah before we got on that rabbit hole. We did the scouting trip. I was really disappointed in the general units that we hunted. Like I named names on my podcast because I'm like, don't go back.
Don't go here. Yeah.
Don't go there because there's no.
How did you pick your unit? Like, what were the factors that you considered?
When we first made the plans, we were going to go to a spike and cow unit and hunt spiking cows. That was our plan. I had gotten word that Utah was opening up some of they were carving off pieces of their limited entry units and making more general units. So there was one unit that I knew of, then I heard they were carving off a piece of it, and I'm like, ooh, so here's a limited entry unit that this piece of it is now going to be general, and this is the first year it's going to be general. It could be good.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of pressure there. There's not a whole lot of, information out there about this thing. This could be really good. And we kind of looked at it. And so that was the major driving factor. Was this was the first year it was going to be a general unit. And maybe there'd be a bunch of, because this unit is known for some pretty big elk. So that maybe we could get in there and have a good time. That was the whole driving factor. It turned out not to be true.
So what? This section of the unit that became general was not a good part of the unit?
Correct. The northern boundary of it that bordered the Indian reservation was the only thing that had anything close to having some type of water. 2/3 of the unit was just dry, arid. I guess evidently bighorn sheep territory, because that's where we saw some bighorn sheep.
Yes, and you saw bison, didn't you?
Yes, but we saw them on the Indian reservation where all where all the water was.
Yeah.
Where all the not straight up and down slopes where they were literally kind of looked like rolling hill. I mean, to some extent, but a lot less. They had to work a lot less harder over there to have a life. There's all the cover, all the food, all the water they needed to stay over there, and there was no reason for them to leave that to come into these canyons that had no water and really didn't have a whole lot of food. Now, there was one area at the very top of one that we found elk sign in on the scouting trip, but we also found out when we went back up there that there was a guy that he would go up there and camp for a month, and he wasn't a hunter.
Oh, is this the guy that had the gun you got warned about from some locals?
Exactly. And part of me now thinks maybe we should just went up there and just went somewhere else other than where he was, but there's not a whole lot of area up there. So, and then we went to the other unit, the Montezuma Canyon. Lack of water, and there's no elk there. None. That's when we found it out that when they do the elk survey for that unit, they counted the Abajo Mountains, but you couldn't hunt the Abajo Mountains as part of the general unit. So all the elk over on the Abajo Mountains ain't nothing. They travel, I guess they migrate in the winter in Colorado there, or some of the herd does. So they cross that unit, but they don't stay in that unit. So now you went up north.
Yeah, we were in the Uinta Mountains.
So I have been there. We went up there. We didn't mountain bike it, but we were picking up the kids were up there in this recovery program that my stepson used to be a part of. They were up there doing their 30-day wilderness hike. Moon Lake?
Yep.
So we were camped at Moon Lake, and they were using Moon Lake as a headquarters. So I did a little mountain biking around there. Saw lots of deer. Didn't see any elk.
Oh, I saw plenty of deer.
And so I've been to that Moon Lake area. And we had the thought when we were going to move units, we thought about going that way.
Yeah.
So your experience up there, y'all hiked in, and
so,
how generally, how was the elk hunting?
So we hunted the same unit twice. We hunted the same general area, but different spots. The first time was 2020, which was general rifle, any bull. The second time was last year, which was any bull, archery only. The long and short of it is I'm probably never going to hunt there again.
Yeah.
But if I did, there were elk. I found elk both times.
Okay.
So when we did the rifle season, opening day, we saw a cow 100 yards from camp.
Yeah.
But it was too dark. We were hiking to our glassing spot. It was too dark, not legal light. We spooked her. We had a group of 4 guys, one former Army, who I hope he listens to this because I like to give him crap because he's a state trooper in Arizona. He's not in shape for the mountains. He was not in shape for that trip. He thought he was. He got his butt beat in Utah. I love you, Ryan. But we split up, so they stayed in one spot, and then I don't even remember how we determined who was going to go where. But we split up every day. We were there for 5 days, and that same day, opening morning, my buddy was calling. It was like the very beginning of October, so we figured, you might still be able to call him.
Yeah.
And he calls in a big bull, like first day, opening day. Problem is, it ran right at him, and he wasn't expecting it. It came in quiet. So he's glassing, and it actually was right below him, and it went up the ridge right at him. This was rifle.
Yeah.
It came into 50 yards.
Wow.
He saw it, attempted to lift up the gun, and it was gone like that. It was gone too fast for him to do anything, and he didn't see any more elk the rest of that hunt. For me, I didn't see my elk until day 3, and there was so much hunting pressure down low. And this is the reason that I would not pick this unit, and we almost didn't pick it when we were planning the first time. So this unit has the most elk of every general unit in Utah.
Yes.
But it also has the most hunting pressure.
Yes.
And I looked through 7 years. So one of the nice things is Utah has really good records. And if you're a nerd like me, you can go through and make a nice spreadsheet. And I basically was like, statistics say, despite the pressure, our best chances are this unit. And so we followed the numbers and tried to do that. And to be fair, we saw elk, plenty of elk, both trips. But there was a lot of pressure. And we tried to use the pressure to our advantage. So there were 2 things the first time. Pressure down low. All the pressure was around 8,500 feet. And it was very warm. I don't remember what it was, but it was very warm. So on day 3, I decided, it's warm. Let's go over 10,000 feet. There's wilderness back here. No one's probably dumb enough except the horse guys to go back there. Let's hike back there. We do that, and I'm cresting over. I'm over 10,000 feet at this point, and I'm going up a ridge. Like an idiot, I'm blowing a cow call. And as soon as I blow a cow call, I feel a wind at the back of my neck. And I look up, and sure enough, probably not even 100 yards, there's a nice big bull that was at least like a 5x5, like nice main beam. And I look up at him, and then within 2 seconds, he got my wind, and then he was gone. I never saw him again. And that was the last elk we saw on that trip. But the second time, which was last year, we went, and I think if I were to do it again, the only way I would do it is if I didn't try and do it with the rut. Because the problem is everyone who lives in Utah also wants to hunt the rut, I guess. I would do early season because you could hunt it in the beginning of September. I think even this year was the end of August. I would have done that because they would have been more patternable. I had encounters with 3 bulls in 5 days, I think. And 2 times I should have taken a bull, but I screwed up and I was stupid. I was either looking the wrong direction or it was because it was a solo setup. I called them in. They came from a way that I wasn't prepared for and got my wind. The third time, we were playing hunting pressure. There was all this hunting pressure on the place that we scouted a bunch of stuff, and we had like plans E and F were like 1,000 feet lower, didn't look great, but there was so much pressure, and I think it was actually cooler. We were like, let's just go down. So we dropped down 1,500 feet or so. Lots of cows, mule deer, and we saw mule deer everywhere. I mean, mule deer just everywhere. And then we come across a herd of elk, like 20 elk. And we're hiking, not expecting to see them here. And I look up and I'm like, holy shit. elk. Everybody stop, because we're in the middle of there's no cover. We're just walking up a trail, and they're walking perpendicular to us. And we just freeze. They have no idea we're there. And I range, and they're 60 yards. I'm like, I can take a shot at 60 yards. That was my limit. I was like, I can do this. So we start getting ready. But the problem is they're all grouped up together.
Yeah.
The wind is good. And out of nowhere, they run. They just start running off, and they keep going.
That's Sixth Sense we talked about.
No, it's not a Sixth Sense. No, this is public hunting ground. So there's my buddy Peter, his brother-in-law, and we have an hour before the end of legal light. So we drop our packs, and we're like, hey, Jerry, you stay on our packs. Don't move from here. We're going after those elk, because we thought we knew where they were going, because we knew the area, we knew the maps. So we're trying to get around them. And we do this whole thing. We never end up finding them. But when we come back, Jerry tells us about 20 minutes later, two guys just come walking down the hill with no care in the world whatsoever, and their wind was going straight at those elk because the wind was coming down the hill. So those two guys, which it was the middle of, there was plenty of hunting time left. They just should not have been going out yet. And, they just walked down the hill, blew out an entire herd of elk that left the zip code, nowhere to be found. And then after that, Peter, I really wanted him, because I knew I was hunting Arizona elk. I really wanted him to get one, and his peep got knocked out. And we didn't have a backup peep. We were 2 hours or so from the town.
Yeah.
And it was the day before the last day, and we just said, you know what? We're just going to go home early.
Here's something, because we've had this thought. We talked about it when we were in Utah. You ever shot your buddy's bow for practice?
I haven't, but that's a great idea.
If you and your buddy are close to the same, like me and Curtis are close to the same. I'm shooting 70 pounds, you shooting 65. Draw length's pretty close. I think it would be worth for you at least to know, if you're bow hunting, that if you could shoot your buddy's bow, and where is it kind of like a rifle where you could pick it up, and if you aim the same, that it would hit the same? I think it's worth trying.
Yeah, we got to try that. Peter and I last year actually we used different broadheads, but we had the same arrow, same weight, and we used different broadheads, but I think at one point I needed to use one of his arrows, and I shot one of his arrows out of my bow, and it was perfect. I bet we probably could have. That's
good things to know. When you're doing those backcountry stuff and stuff can go haywire, practice. I'm thinking practice with your buddy's stuff.
That's a great idea.
Just nothing crazy, 30 yards. Can I make it work if I needed to? Versus, it's 2 days. We got 2 days left, and we're not going to burn a day going to town and coming back.
Yeah.
So just a thought. I had that thought the other day. We were talking about it when we were up in Utah. Like, could you shoot my bow? I was like, well, could you shoot my bow? Anyway. No,
we were stupid in the middle of the day when we were waiting because it was too early. Instead of doing that, we set a target out at 100 yards, and it's like, can we hit a target at 100 yards? We probably should have been doing what you just said, because that's a great idea.
The other thing that I was thinking about was, what was it? I hate this happening. See, I want to blame it on age, maybe so. I don't know. Other than, what else about Utah? Anything? Because there's a topic that I want to get into before we end up wrapping this up, and I don't think we're anywhere close to wrapping this thing up yet.
Well, I could go on for a while about Utah, but those are the big takeaways, I feel like.
I want to go back to Utah. I would go back to do cow and spike archery over the counter. I would not go back to a general unit. I cannot on any kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would even interested in doing one buying a general rifle tag. I don't think like you were talking about elk in the freezer and putting stuff in there. I told you we've got that cow hunt coming.
Yep.
And I'm good. I would like to do a rifle cow hunt every year, just to go on a hunt and put an elk in the freezer every year.
Elk are delicious.
But I want to go back to Utah and chase mule deer with my bow. That's my passion now.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get drawn. If we don't get drawn this year, we're certainly going next year. We've talked about the Arizona thing.
Oh yeah.
And going and doing that. But I love glassing.
Yeah.
And once you experience that part of it and the adventure part of it, I said I could give up whitetails and probably be pretty good. Just an occasional little, parks and wildlife hunt here and there. But I'm not even and I listened to your podcast when you talked about you're getting ready to put in for your first time ever putting in for the drawings. I've been putting in. This year I have 25 points in gun deer.
I got 4. The most I have is 4. I think mule deer, because that's the only one I've applied for every year.
Yeah, so 25 points in gun deer. So that means I've never been drawn. There's one year that I messed up my application because you actually had to mail in the cards, and I screwed it up. So I didn't get any points that year. So I've probably been doing it for like 26 years. But when I put in for them, I don't put in for whitetail hunts. I'm putting in, it might be a whitetail hunt, but I can shoot exotics. There's something else there to chase besides whitetail.
Well, this year I changed my strategy. The 3 years before, I applied for mule deer, and then I would apply for the e-postcard hunts that are near where I lived. And I applied for the whitetail hunts near where I lived because I've hunted walk-in public access in Texas, and it's awful.
Yep.
I could show you on my Onyx. I did one of the times I went scouting, not exaggerating, every 75 yards, there was either a blind or a stand. And it's tough to find a spot where there's not other people. I mean, I live near Austin, but I imagine it's within an hour and a half of any city. If there's walk-in public, it's probably going to be the same thing, I imagine.
So my area over there around the Woodlands, Conroe area, Sam Houston National Forest, David Crockett National Forest. There's some guys that have success out there, but it is not easy. And those poor deer out there, the deer that came in this morning when we were hunting, we didn't even got to talk about our hunt this morning.
No, we didn't.
But those deer that came in, I told you, they'll come in a little skittish, but it didn't take them just a few minutes. They're settling down, eating the corn. Now the doe, she's just skittish anyway. But could you imagine being a deer on public walk-in land in Texas?
Oh no!
They're belly crawling and probably got a Kevlar helmet on.
They might,
just trying to survive. They've got to be super tuned in to everything that's going on over there. And if you can kill one with archery equipment on that type of walk-in public land, kudos to you.
Yeah. That's one of the things that drives me nuts. I was on the Texas Public Land Hunting Facebook group, and some guy posted a deer that was like barely legal, but it's legal.
But it was legal.
And I kid you not, there were over 100 comments of people talking trash to him about it. It's like, man, there are other things you should be worried about other than someone shooting a legal deer. Like, for all you know, it's his first deer.
And with a bow.
So
he's providing, he's having that adventure. He's killed it with a bow, and he's providing meat for his family. Good on him.
Yeah.
Good on him. There's no... I don't ever say anything negative. When I see, if there's a picture that I can't say something, on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, if I can't say something positive, I don't say anything at all. And if it's something like that, I'll expect kids with their first deer. Man, I'm going to give you a thumbs up. I'm going to congratulations. People with, or whoever with their first deer.
Yep.
A really nice deer. It is in my only hang up, and we're in Texas, is, was it low fence or was it high fence? I've guided on high fence ranches. And it depends on the ranch, right? And because I know that you've got a super nice axis deer, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you're good with that, man, great. But I've also guided on places that was a 200-acre zoo.
Well, I've seen both.
Yeah.
You have to find the right place, because you can find a high fence ranch where they're ranging free roam and you can do different types of hunting. And then you get those ones where you're not really hunting. It's just they're basically in a pen.
You're waiting for them to walk by.
Yeah, and you can get both. I've hunted on low fence and I've hunted on high fence. Like, I'm not shy of saying the axis was on high fence. It was 600 acres of high fence, and they were free ranging around. And I didn't shoot it over a feeder.
Yep.
I shot it when it was roaming around. We found it and we were exploring around the ranch. And I took my shot at like 150 yards. I purposefully went to this place because I know the guy. And I know that it's not the pen type of hunting. It's just not what I want to do. But for people who want to do that, good for you. I don't really care.
Yeah, I guess what gets me is the whitetail part of it, because
Or it's like 300-inch whitetails and all that stuff.
When you see that picture, in my mind, I want to say that's high fence, right? Because I have seen pictures where they've got the ear tag in their ear, right? And I haven't. So let me kind of tell the story here. When we were hunting high fence, when I was guiding on high fence, it was for the Star Kids program.
Okay.
So we're taking kids and we're shooting does and spikes. That's all we're shooting. But it was a high fence operation. They had some big, gorgeous bucks on there. And I saw where, this guy shoots this deer and they cut the tag out of it. And, they start taking pictures. And I just walk away and I'm like, not for me.
Yeah.
Not for me. I don't want anything. I mean, I'll take the youth out there. We'll work on doe management and all that. But I don't want any part of the other part of it.
No. It takes away from the truly good deer. Are you familiar with the Seek One group? Seek
One.
Yeah, so if you look them up on Instagram or YouTube, they're based out of Georgia. But their thing is they hunt suburban deer.
Oh, yeah.
So their whole deal is they go around and they ask for permission. And I don't know the guy's name, but I follow them. And he shot a deer, I think it's in Kansas. And it's one of those suburban deer where he got access to someone's like 1 acre type deal. And that thing's like a double drop tine. That drop tine off, the brow tine's on the back.
Wow.
It's like a 200-inch private land, but it's a free range, like private land Kansas whitetail that is in like someone's backyard woodlands.
Those can be some great, if you could get an area like that, there can be some great bow hunting in there. Great.
And the thing is, that is a phenomenal hunt and story. And I feel like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the guys that want to just get the biggest deer they can in the high fence in Texas, but I would much rather hear his story chasing that one than the guy who did it on the high fence ranch where he just sat in the blind and they basically came out of the pen.
And they know him by name, whatever. Anyway, so there's a guy that I follow, Urban Pursuit.
Okay.
He's up northeast, Pennsylvania maybe, but that's all he does is he's got access, got permission to hunt these little plots in suburbia. In Bryan, I went on night shift, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. In the winter, I drive around and I wasn't looking for criminals. I was looking for deer. And there was some really nice bucks living right there in the city limits of Bryan. My mother-in-law has a place in Magnolia that's like 2.5 acres. And I put things on Instagram. I've got to wait for the deer to walk past my deer target so I can shoot the target. I'm not really interested in shooting because it's mostly just does and stuff that hangs out there. And my mother-in-law she wouldn't have anything against me shooting them because they eat her flowers. And she's like a master gardener. Yeah. She loves her plants. And she's actually trying to figure out, what plants they will not eat. And that's what she's trying to plant. But I'll be totally down with the suburban hunting. Totally down with it.
It's different.
Yeah, it's different. But you hunt where you can.
Exactly.
And I guess if you got a big enough checkbook, you can hunt wherever.
If I had a big enough checkbook, I'd be going to Alaska chasing moose every year. Or, no, I'd probably go to Canada, honestly.
Okay, that's an interesting topic. If you could, your dream hunt.
That's... dream hunt. Honestly, probably bighorn sheep in Mexico.
I'm going to say it's going to have to be big mule deer in, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado. Told you I wanted to do the above alpine type thing. That's probably where it'd be. And the elk hunt would be close. Big now guy with my bow would be close too. But I love the, I think we're the same boat here. We love the DIY.
Yeah.
Would I ever pay a guide? Yeah, maybe. Like my buddy Ryan. I mean, he drew the Wyoming tag the first time he ever put in for it.
Yep.
He's never been elk hunting in his life. He knows nothing about elk hunting. He got a world of experience in the 7 days he hunted with that outfitter.
Oh, yeah.
And
No, it is. It's true.
he didn't, I mean, he got to shoot. He shot one, they didn't find it. But he had multiple encounters. He got to pick that guy's brain, and he paid a little extras for one-on-one.
Yep.
And he had an amazing time. He's like, I would do it if I drew the tag again tomorrow. I would do the same thing.
There's a time and place for it. I made a podcast about using a guide. I am a DIY through and through, but when I drew that Arizona tag, I was not planning on drawing it until I had applied for 7 years or so. For those who are on my podcast, you know this. But for those who are listening on the Salty Yak podcast, I drew an Arizona elk tag last year. My second year applying ever. So I went in with 1 point. I drew my first choice, which I had a 7% chance of drawing.
But you had a chance.
I had a chance. And when my credit card got hit, and this is a fun story. I'll probably talk to my wife about this when she comes on my podcast. I used the same credit card to Arizona. They hit your credit card before they tell you what you drew.
I heard that.
And my wife did not know that for the last 3 years I've been building points for her in every state that I hunt. So, and this is something I really want to dig into more because I'm getting off topic, but I'll bring it back. The comment that I feel like most people say is, I wish I could go, but it's so expensive and they can't figure it out. The budgeting side of things is something I nerd out about. I've got a spreadsheet. How can I apply in every state and build points? And how much money do I need to save each month? And how can I figure out how to do this? It's really not that expensive if you break it down. Instead of, oh yeah, when application season comes around, I need to drop $1,000. No, it's 28. No, it's probably like, I don't know actually what it is. It's probably like $80 a month or something. You get paid twice a month, $40. You can $40 a paycheck. You can, I'm sure, unless you're struggling, in which case you're probably not thinking about going out west anyway.
Probably not.
It's not as hard as some people might think if you use a little bit of financial discipline and planning.
It's that whole mental thing.
Yeah.
People make up excuses not to do stuff.
They do.
So whether it's the 75 hard or it's going out west. So
yeah,
but you're on the right track.
Yeah, but anyway, so my credit card gets hit, $650, and I'm like, oh my God, one of us drew an elk tag. I was like, oh my God, my wife might have drawn an elk tag. And she has no idea that I've been building points in like 5 different states. I gotta tell her because she might have drawn this tag. And I did I think it's called Point Guard, and I do that. It's like, I think they raised the price to like $15 last year. I was like, worst case scenario, we can turn it back in and she can keep the points. But I had to tell her, I'm like, hey, so by the way, I know you said you'd never want to go out west hunting with me, but I figured one day you might. By the way, you might have an elk tag.
So you didn't wait until like you found out for sure.
No,
you were just so
it was
excited.
on my mind. No, It was on my mind. I tell my wife everything. So like, you know how you were talking about the guys that...
But you hadn't been telling her that you've been applying for the last 3 years.
No.
So you tell her almost everything.
Almost everything. Almost everything. But you know how like you were saying that the deer camp guys, they want to get away from their wives?
Yeah.
I love spending time with my wife.
Me too.
She hunts with me. I thoroughly enjoy spending time with her. When we were in Utah last year, the 3 of us were all talking about how we miss our wives. And it, hey, that gives you it's a good thing.
It is.
It was supposed to be like a happy present surprise when the time came around. My thought was one day she'll want to do this. And when she decides to do it, she'll have enough points to have a really good hunt. And it was just weighing on my mind because I tell her everything. I was like, I can't wait. I can't not tell her. I need to just tell her and just get it over with because it was like weighing heavy on my chest. I was like, hey, sorry, this might happen. She took it a lot better than I thought she was going to be honest. But she definitely wasn't super enthusiastic about it. So
did the next year, did you put in points with her permission?
I didn't ask.
So this next time she draws a tag...
Hey, she knows it's coming.
But she's going to be good with it.
I don't know about that. She's still... I'm warming her up. I've talked to her that, I want her to go out west, and she knows. I'm trying to convince her to do Arizona with me because... The big thing for her, she likes the truck camping side of things. She really doesn't like when I want to go into the wilderness and not have a way out. And she's also worried a little bit about bears. So I felt like Arizona over the... I agree, but
unless they're the big brown type, I don't worry about it.
I don't either. I could not care less. I've had mountain lions walk through my camp before. Those I don't enjoy. The black bears, though, I really don't care. Very rarely am I going to be worried about one. I mean, don't get me wrong. If it's walking towards me, I'm going to get big and yell at it, but I'm not going to piss myself or nothing. Yeah. But I've been trying to convince her to do the Arizona over-the-counter archery in January because it's a lot of glassing, very open, and it's a good time of year. Mm-hmm. So one day I'll get her to go. But for now, she likes whitetail hunting, so
there you go.
I try and hunt her with her as much as I can.
I put my wife in sometimes for some of the parks and wildlife hunts.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, if you want to, are we going to have a hotel to stay in? Yeah, I'll put you in for ones where we can actually stay in a bed and breakfast or something anyway.
I wouldn't even mind if I had to do that, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff you can do. And then sometimes you just, you're going for the experience, right? Mm-hmm. This was the thought that I had, and I guess maybe it's me being selfish. So that scouting trip, you just make it into a hiking trip and take the wife.
Yeah, I've heard about guys talking about that. I thought about doing hey, let's go fly fishing and go do that and something like that, and it turns into a scouting trip. But
so I was looking at Arizona, and I found this nice little lodge. They even I can even bring the dog. And I was like, oh, it looked really beautiful. It was in the unit that I wanted to go check out. And I'm like, yeah, my wife she's not going to want to ride 15 hours to spend 2 days or 3 days and ride 15 hours back.
Does your wife like wine?
Yes.
Okay.
Not as much as she used to, but.
Well, when this is done, I'll give you a couple of units that you can go hunting for Coues deer, but they also have wineries and stuff, so you can stay in a hotel, drink a little wine, hang out in town, and then be hunting in the morning and the evening.
That's not my kind of hunting.
That could be. Trying to bring her.
That could be a scouting trip,
or that, whatever.
There you go. So, yeah. Like I said, we did a podcast. It was a little bit about hunting. I did tell a story on there. I was telling her myself the first time I had her shooting at a deer. I was coaching way too much. And basically, in her mind, she ended up missing the deer twice. And she's like, yeah, you just need to shut up. Let me do my thing.
I understand that.
She was a good shoot. She's a good shot. And since then, I just let her get her on the deer and make sure she's pointing at the right one and just let her do her thing.
Let me ask you this. Is your wife a more natural shot than you? Because mine is.
No.
Oh, man. My wife makes me feel like I suck. I've been shooting much longer than her. She picked it up, and she can shoot way better than I can.
My wife shoots very well, and she likes going. We call them redneck dates. We'll go to the indoor pistol range.
Nice.
She likes shooting sporting clays.
Oh, sporting clays is awesome.
Yeah. And we don't do a whole lot of rifle shooting out here. We do some, but as long as I tell her that her rifle's on, she's good with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's marry. This is some marriage. Marry a woman, that likes the same things you do, and you'll always be together.
Or you get lucky like me, and she just accepts it.
Well, I knew that when I told you we got matched on eHarmony.
Yeah.
In her little profile thing, when she said she was just as home in black dress and pearls as in blue jeans, boots, and a four-wheeler. I was like, sounds like it might be okay.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it was a good time.
I got very lucky. We were together 3 years when I went on my first hunting trip, and she has put up with me and my obsession ever since then.
So, let me throw this out at you. I'm not going to mention any names here, but I have a very good friend of mine who has a fairly recent new girlfriend that's a vegan. Now, she is okay with him going hunting, and she's all about the organic sourcing of meat and all that. But I'm kind of like, yeah, that's at some point, does that run aground? Does that relationship hit the rocks?
I feel like vegans have more in common with hunters than they want to admit. But I do feel like at some point there will be a crossroads there.
Well, and I know of some stories where, couples have been together and it's usually she's the vegan, he's not, and he's a hunter and he converts her
You know,
to eating, venison, that type of thing.
But you know that statistic, I don't remember the number, so I'm not going to make it up, but there's a high percentage of vegans that when they get drunk, they end up eating meat.
Well, we're not talking about a joker. We're talking about...
Oh, no, I'm serious. I'm not joking. No, this is real.
I was thinking of something. Yeah, well, there we go.
Apparently, it's real. I mean, listen, if you're a vegan, you're probably not listening to this podcast. Let's be honest.
They're probably not, yeah. But vegans don't even eat fish, so...
Oh, my God.
They're not listening to the salty yak part of it either.
No. But I just feel like it's just not the way our brains are supposed to work. And I think that... hey, they say alcohol releases your inhibitions and your primal instincts kick back in. And you're like, man, I'd really like a steak. And boom, next thing you know, the vegan's eating a steak.
I like, you ever watch the movie or the series Alone?
Yeah.
So I like watching that. And there's every now and then there'll be a vegan pop up on there. They don't last very long.
No, they don't. They don't last long at all.
They never win. You've got to have a meat protein diet to survive. So at least out there they do.
That's tough.
I want to talk about suppressors.
Let's talk about them.
So I've got the itch. I've never owned a suppressor. I've never owned a rifle or handgun that you could put a suppressor. They had a threaded barrel on it. On my game camera pictures, and I've known this for a while, there is a surplus of raccoons.
Okay.
They love deer feeders, right?
Yeah.
I had no idea how many raccoons were visiting deer feeders before I made the feeder motor where they could not get to it. I bet half of my corn was going to raccoons. Anyway, so I'm like, you know what? I want to get a rifle with a scope that has an illuminated reticle on it, because what I'm going to use is a not a thermal or anything like that, but put a green light on the feeder.
Yep.
And shoot raccoons, but I want to do it suppressed. So I was thinking 17 HMR. Okay. Suppressed, or I keep looking around and I'm starting learning that maybe I can get a 223 suppressor and I can shoot a 17 HMR through it, and I still could have it if I ever wanted to suppress a 223. Yep. So, but I know nothing other than listening to a podcast. I know the process. You got to do the paperwork and fingerprints, and you got to pay the $200 tax stamp. Yep. But you recently got one. You just fired your first shots.
I did last week.
And what caliber rifle are you shooting?
That's a 308. So I got a 30 cal one because I'm in the process. I have a buddy that's a gunsmith. He's building me a 7mm Rem mag, and I have my 308. And I wanted something that I could handle from a 223 up to the 7 Rem mag. And so I got my 30 cal can.
So shooting a 223 through the 30 cal, how much? Is there any difference than shooting it through a 223 can?
Yes. I would say for your use case, the 17 HMR, you should just get a 223. Like, the truth of the matter is, I think eventually I'm going to want different cans for different guns, because my experience with the 308 is it did throw off my zero. And moving it on and off and shooting with different guns, I don't like chancing things like that. I don't like to take things off. I think eventually I'll end up getting more. I would not suggest using a 30 cal for a 17 HMR. You could use it for a 223, and I'm gonna. But eventually, I will probably get another one that will be dedicated to that.
I just wonder what would be the level of noise reduction between you shooting a 223 with a 223 can and shooting a 223 with a 30 caliber can.
I'd be interested in testing it, to be honest.
I mean, is it a bunch difference? Not it doesn't make any difference at all, or that would be my interesting part of it. Yeah. Because I've got a 300 Win Mag. Let me ask you this: recoil reduction. Is significant? Significant. Because I've got that 300 Win Mag on that Tika T3 Lite. Accurate little gun. Love the little gun. She kicks like a mule. Yeah. It
was significant. I think so. When I shot my elk last year, the recoil was strong enough, and I didn't have a greatest shooting position. I was seated with my rifle on my back, on my pack, on the top, the lid of my pack. That was the best I could do. When I took that shot, I was solid. But I was solid for one shot, not for two.
Yeah.
So when I had that recoil, it was a nightmare trying to get back on. Fortunately, I only took one shot. When I was at the range last week and I shot it, I could have easily taken a second shot, but without any hesitation. It barely hit my shoulder, I felt like. And it was a significant noise reduction, too. I mean, it's hard to tell indoor range. I haven't shot it outside yet. But when you're hearing the boom, 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 and it's like boom, boom, it's much quieter.
So the follow-up shot, much easier to recover from the recoil.
Yeah.
Never thought about that. Never even looked at that aspect of it. I was just looking for a quiet gun. And the reason I'm not using a 22, because I want to be, generally from my deer stand to the deer feeder is 100, 120 yards. I want to be able to sit in my deer stand and shoot raccoons at night from the comfort of my deer stand versus making a little impromptu ground blind or something.
Well, you're being pragmatic. You're not going out there to challenge yourself. You're trying to get rid of the raccoons.
Exactly. So that's what I was looking at, and trying to do it, fairly quiet, not to where it scared a bunch of people, bunch of things off.
Here's the thing. If you want to use it on everything, go with a 30 cal can or bigger. I'm not sure if you can use the one that I have on a 30 Win Mag. You'd have to look. But for me, my primary use case was going to be I wanted to bring it out west because I have hearing loss from when I was in the Marines. My ears never stop ringing. I'm sure you have that too.
What?
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes when you're out there, the shots happen really quick, and I don't want to have to worry about it. And so I just wanted to be able to not have to worry. Like, I'm still going to have my hearing protection, and if I have time, I'm putting it on. I'll do both. But I wanted the idea of being able to have a quieter shot help protect myself from the animal hearing the shot coming and getting spooked or any other animals running away. Easy follow-up shot because of the reduced recoil. And, those are really the primary benefits that I was looking for. And I'll have fun shooting it too. But I started with the 30 cal one because I can use it all the way down to a 17 HMR if I wanted to. I just don't think it's going to work as well as if I got a 22 cal can.
Yeah.
But starting with one gives you the idea. My thing was start with the most versatile can I can get, and we'll see. Because maybe I'm not going to care for it that much. I'm going to bring it with me to Montana. We'll find out how much I enjoy using it because my gun's already got a ridiculously long barrel.
And that was another thing I was looking at. So if you've got a 26-inch barrel on your rifle and it's threaded and you don't cut it back any, then you're adding another 6 inches.
Oh no, I added 9.
9.
Yeah, you could take the end off and make it a 7, but the honest truth, the reason why I saw Giannis Putelis from Meat Eater. I commented it on one of his posts because he was hunting this year, and he had this elaborate setup with a tripod that was all splayed out on the ground, and he had what looked like a very long rifle barrel with a very long suppressor on the end of it. And I commented, and I was like, what suppressor are you using, and how long is your barrel? Is it causing you any issues? Because I'm getting one this year. And he actually commented back, and he's like, it's a 26-inch barrel and a 9-inch suppressor, which is my setup exactly. And he was like, you have to adapt a little, but you can get around with it. And I was like, all right, sold. I'm gonna try it. And if it ends up being too much of a pain, then I'll adjust, whatever.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, okay, do I cut 4 inches off the barrel?
I thought about doing
and
that.
have it threaded for the suppressor. Well, I'm talking about my deer hunting rifle right now, so I was just like, I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah.
The recoil reduction is got me interested just because of that. But I won't give up accuracy. But also, like in the heat of the moment, I generally don't like the first shot. You don't remember the recoil in it. But
no.
Trying to get back on that second shot, if you got to do follow-ups, that's a thing. That's a thing. So we'll see. How long did it take you from the time you turned your paperwork in to the time it showed up on your door?
Too long.
Too long, really?
Well, here's the deal. I'm going to rant a little bit.
Okay.
So I would encourage. So I use Silencer Central.
I have been looking at their stuff.
I like them because it was so easy. Don't get me wrong. There's better suppressors out there. There's smaller ones. There's cheaper ones. But for the first one, they give you the NFA Trust, and they ship it to your door. They do everything for you. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. They made the process super easy. Everybody was really nice. Everything they advertise is all true. So I did it in like August last year. And I went up to the Dallas Safari Club in January with my buddy Taylor, who we were talking about earlier that I had on the podcast. We were talking about the Texas draws.
Yeah.
I convinced him because they were running a special promotion for like a 6-month payment plan instead of a 4-month, which was their normal one, for Dallas Safari Club. And they do everything there. I convinced him to do it. He got his in 7 months. He did it in January and got it in July.
Wow.
I had to wait 11 months, I think, before I got mine, even though I did it before him.
You would...
No idea.
Maybe it's your last name.
I don't know. Yeah, they flagged my last name and were like, this guy's a terrorist. No, I don't know. I have no idea. But it took way too long. It took way too long to get it.
So it took almost a year.
Almost a year.
Wow. Don't like hearing that.
No.
But I guess,
Well, here's the thing, too. This is the good news for everybody. When I did it, they were still doing paper applications. It's all e-forms now.
Yep.
And the process is much faster. So supposedly it should reduce times. And not the IRS, the ATF added dedicated agents specifically to process the suppressor stamps. So theoretically it should be faster now.
We shall see.
Yeah.
I'm going to get one. I've already got the scope. I know what rifle I'm going to buy now. I finally narrowed, and I'm probably not going with a 17 HMR. I think I'm going to go 223. Okay. Ruger American makes a ranch rifle that's just over 16-inch barrel. So screw a little suppressor on that. And if I want to, I can, because I do my own hand loading, I can reduce the muzzle velocity on them. I'm not going to make them subsonic, but close, getting 1,100 feet per second, where I can still whack a coon at 150 yards if I want to. And if a coyote comes by or a hog comes by, still got enough gun that I can deal with that too. So that's probably what I'm going to do. Probably could go with that ranch rifle and then end up putting the 223 suppressor on it and go from there.
That sounds good to me.
What else you got?
You want to talk about the hunting we're doing this weekend?
You know what? Let's talk about that.
Okay.
So we came out here to my place, which if you're familiar with the Salty Yak podcast, you know what we have out here. Just a little slice of central Texas, mostly farmland with some interspersed woodlands and creeks and so forth. But it's private whitetail hunting in Texas, which 95% of it, which you have in Texas is. And you've seen the setups. We have, like, you didn't use the term, you used the term this morning, but you didn't use the term in the reference to the whitetail stuff. It's a little micro
terrain.
You
have a lot of micro terrain. It's great.
We've got a little spot with a little food plot, a couple of feeders, but it's at a choke point where the deer come through. We saw a few deer this morning.
We did.
The doe didn't want to cooperate.
No.
And we were thinking that, hey, it was 54 degrees this morning, nice and cool.
Texas.
Yeah. That we were here in the middle of October. This was a good day. That we should have had pretty good deer movement. And now we have been hunting this area for the last 2 days, but generally hunting pressure, because we never hunt it more than, a few days at a time. And it's just family hunting it anyway. But they did not cooperate this morning. We had one show up that I call them lopside, because one side's a little taller than the other side. Then we had another little buck show up and a doe. Seen a few other ones. So this is not your first time private land Texas hunting.
No, this is probably my second time private land Texas hunting.
First time bow hunting?
First time bow hunting private land ever.
What did you think about the old pop-up blind?
That blind is awesome. I have a cheap pop-up blind from like Bass Pro or something, and you can barely fit in that thing with 2 people in a bow. And This blind is nice. It is in the perfect spot. You could not hide that blind better. I mean, you got the perfect shooting lanes cut out. It is a perfect setup. Honestly, it is. It's great. And that blind is perfect.
So, like I told you, years of hunting that spot. Mm-hmm. We've had several different setups over the course of the years of hunting that spot. And it's finally, like I said, in the last 5 years, 10 years, we've perfected the bow hunting spot. So the pop-up blind, and then you saw the ladder stand.
Yes.
Ladder stand works really well too. But I kind of wanted us to sit together because I want to try to get you on video.
Yeah.
Shooting a deer. To me, if I got a choice, I'd rather hunt them on the ground. Mm-hmm. Out of that pop-up blind, I like being eye to eye, and I like having them 10 yards away.
Yeah.
They shot several deer, the boys and Ryan and Six this weekend. They've shot several deer, and I'm not sure the furthest one wasn't more than, I think the furthest shot was 24 yards. But when you shoot them like that, if you don't see them go down, you don't, the blood trail's not hard to find. Mm-hmm. So they're easy recoveries. So I like them close. I will shoot them further away, and we can do that there. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. But I just like hunting out of that blind.
It's fun.
You got to be, like I said, you can get away with a little movement. Nicholas was telling you about that. But you got to be super quiet. And your bow's got to be super, you can't have any squeak. I have literally been drawing back and the carbon arrow coming up across the bottom of the rest. Oh. The little moleskin has got a little spot in it, and it goes, and that's all it takes, and they're gone. So it's, but I like hunting out of an elevated blind too. You get the view from an elevated ladder stand or something like that is great. Mm-hmm. So that's the setups. Both of the places I have. We'll go down here and look at the other one here in a little while. There's a ladder stand, and then there's a pop-up blind. The pop-up blind's an old double bull. It's not quite as big and roomy as that. What is it? A Xenic?
Yeah.
I think it's Xenic is the one.
I was looking. Yeah. I definitely know it was a Xenic.
Me and Ryan went in together and got that one just for that spot. Mm-hmm. We were like, we're going to get this one just for this spot. I do have an idea of a spot down here, a subterranean bow blind.
Oh, what? You're going to have to dumb that one down for me.
So basically think about a box blind, but you sink half of it into the ground.
Interesting.
And so you have bow windows in it. So basically there's only about 3 foot of it sticking above the ground. Literally the deer could look over the top of it if it wanted to. I've seen pictures and videos of ones in South Texas. Yeah. I've got a spot down here. I'm thinking that might be very interesting. Have to be watertight. Have to figure a way to keep the rattlesnakes out of it. Mm-hmm. But I've got it on my mind.
I've never heard of that before. That sounds interesting.
Different, certainly. But what else about your first private land whitetail hunt?
I just love watching deer, to be honest. It was cool seeing the deer. It's hard to say. When I compare it to other places that I've hunted, you kind of have everything here that they want. You've got open field. You've got good thick trees. That micro terrain, like the dry creek bed that's on the other side, that's perfect. They will bed down in there, get good thermal cover when it's really windy. You've got so much habitat that is perfect for them. Plus you do have that pond. Mm-hmm. So that's one stable water source that you have. Yeah. And you need all 3 of those. They need places to bed. They need food to eat. They need good cover so that they'll feel protected. They need water. You've got everything on this place. And the hunting pressure doesn't seem to bug them that much. I know that you wanted to see more deer this morning, but there are still deer.
Oh, yeah. We saw deer.
Yeah. I think we counted 7 or 8 deer.
Mm-hmm. And so think of this. So let's say we saw 8 deer. Mm-hmm. How many of them were bucks?
Most. I think it was at least half. At least half. At least.
And that's one thing, I told you that for every buck we kill, whether it's a spike or not, we need to shoot 2 does. We have a ton of does. But I like seeing that almost 1-to-1 ratio.
Well, that's how it is in nature.
Yeah.
It's 1-to-1.
Yeah. With whitetails. And that's, and it makes for a fun hunt. It makes for a good hunt. It makes for a good rut. Good rut activity.
Well, it's good for the genetics too, because there's less competition for good feed, and so helps the whole herd.
We're lucky here too, because a lot of it's farmland, so you can't tell it right now. But that field next to my dad's house was all standing corn, all spring and all summer, and so they were bedding in there, and they were eating in there.
Yep.
And there was there's a lot of agriculture around here, so they do very well. And they, like I said, they don't have to go far. And if you can, wherever you are, if you can find that little niche place, you don't have to have 1,000 acres. You could have 10 acres, 5 acres. If it's in the right spot, that's all you need.
Yeah. Well, you can also manage land too, because the thing to think about is if you don't have a lot of land, and I've thought about this because my wife and I hope that one day we'll be able to buy a little bit, and we're never going to be able to buy a bunch of acreage. Like, if we're lucky, 20 acres or so. The thing is, you have to give them a reason to be on your place. And that means, well, the things we talked about: cover, food, water. Like, you need to find a way. Like, what are on all the neighboring properties? What are they missing? Like, that would probably be the easiest thing when you look at the 80-20 rule. What's the 20% that I can do on my little chunk of ground that's going to yield 80% of the results and going to help me encourage deer to stay here? I mean, with tools like Onyx, Go Hunt, whatever, you can see what the neighbors are doing. Plus, you can just drive around and look. And just figure out, all right, what is likely going to yield that benefit, and give them a reason to come. Because if you're a rut hunter, then how do I get the does to stay on my place? Because if you get the does to stay on your place, then the bucks are going to follow suit. And if you're trying to pattern them in the beginning, then you're going to want that food source or the water source that they're going to come to, because that's how you pattern them, right? Going food to bed. So you don't have to have a lot of ground. You just have to figure out and be strategic with it. How do I manage this ground to get the herd that I want? And the reality is, you have a good opportunity because there's not a whole lot of other hunters in your area. So you can actually manage the herd. If you're surrounded by a bunch of hunting ranches, maybe you can talk to them and try and get them to be on the same page with you in terms of herd management. But the reality is, unless you high fence, you're never going to keep everything inside. So maybe you won't get 160 class deer, but you can still get a good deer herd, and you can convince them to stay on your place and have opportunities. You just have to be smart and put in a little work.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, we're kind of lucky here. But if you're hunting in a place where, if he's, we have the antler restrictions, but if he hops the fence, it's a mature deer. That's the number one for us. It's like, it needs to be a mature buck. And then we decide, okay, is he a cull, or can we let him live a year? Sometimes, when I look at a deer, I showed you the picture of that one that I killed 2 years ago. When I saw him, I'm like, oh my God. I saw a split G2, and it looked like he had 2, I call them clubs, but they were, he was just wildly different. And I'm like, I hadn't killed a buck with a rifle in a long time, but I shot that one.
Oh yeah.
And that's the biggest buck I've ever killed right there. I'm more about just, if they look good, or if they serve a purpose, like I'm going to shoot a spike, or I will shoot this mature 6-pointer to get him out of the herd. So to help the genetics of it. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this before recording, and you talked about it, I think, on your most recent podcast, that there are different stages in your hunting and your different motivations. Like, when you just get started, you want to kill anything. Yeah. This way you can get the reps under your belt. And then you gravitate and grow towards different things. And I'm in different stages with different species.
The same thing.
We were talking about, this will be my second mule deer hunt this year. If it's legal, I'm shooting it.
Well, I told you I would have shot a mule deer. If we could have got a mule deer doe close to us in Nebraska, I'd have shot her. And it would have been legal to do so. I was walking within 20 yards of mule deer, of does in Utah. But of course we weren't hunting. But anyway, I'm just like,
Yep.
They were everywhere, but I couldn't find one in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm. That's how it goes.
I just want to shoot a mule deer with my bow. I want to shoot a mule deer buck with a bow. You know how it goes.
Well, yeah, it graduates. I'm at the I want to shoot a mule deer portion. I'll take bow or rifle. I don't really care. I just want to shoot a mule deer. And it was the same thing when I started with whitetails. I started with a bow because my options were bow, shotgun, or muzzleloader.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, bow is the lowest point of entry as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to start with the bow. It gives me the most opportunities and the longest season, so I have the most chances, you know? Very pragmatic. And now, I mean, I'm still very new. I've killed 2 whitetail bucks ever. So I don't have any real experience, to be honest. But I have a lot of hunting experience now in different things. And it's nice because I think it's helped me not rush things. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to get excited. And if I get really excited and I'm hunting out west or somewhere and, you know, something gets my blood going, then sure, I'll go for it. But when I'm on other hunts, it's really helped temper me a little bit because I've had so many different experiences. Now, all cards are on the table when I go on that mule deer hunt. Like, when it's my turn, mule deer shows up and it's legal, it's gone.
Yeah. Cow elk.
Yeah.
Back
when you go to Colorado.
Yeah,
oh,
back
yeah.
to the truck. So this afternoon, the boys have left. We have the whole place to ourselves. You had first choice anyway, so that's what I picked over there. So we're going to look here behind the house. There's a ladder stand. There's a ground blind, and you saw the setup over there. As of right now, which way would you be? This is your choice.
It's tough. So the problem is the things that's steering me are the fact that your boys have had such good luck on that ladder stand. But I'm worried about the wind because I think they said the wind was going to be going in the direction of the feeder.
It could be, and it might be. But we might be able to do some stuff to at least mitigate that. So we can go look at it, and then you can make that call. Because I think the wind's still going to stay out of the north for this afternoon.
As of right now, I'm 50-50 on going back to that blind from this morning. And the reason I'm still open to that, despite, you know, that we saw 7-8 deer, whatever it was, and you thought we were going to see more, because we didn't shoot anything this morning, they came in, there was no pressure, they ate their corn, they did their thing. The cows kind of scared them away a little bit. At least that's the story we're telling ourselves.
Yeah, we're going with that.
Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot of pressure there, so they might come back tonight.
Would you be interested in sitting in the ladder stand?
At that same spot?
It's pretty high. It's like a
Yeah.
18 foot or something like that. Would you be interested? Because we don't have to sit together. It's not a problem. I mean, in fact, there's a think of it as an overwatch. If I sit in the rifle stand, even down here behind the house. So if you sit in the ladder stand, I'll sit in the rifle stand.
Okay.
And so the great thing about down here, there's a gas line pipeline right away that runs all the way through these post oaks. This 200-acre block of post oaks. I could sit in the ladder stand, and usually they'll cross the lane. This is what they did the other evening. They crossed the lane, and then they came out into the oak patch where the feeder is. So I can see them coming and could give who's ever there a heads up. Hey, they're headed that way. Maybe they come that way. They're deer, right?
Yeah.
Who knows where they're going to go? Same thing with over there. Just as an overwatch, you know, is how we would kind of play that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not opposed to going in the ladder stand there either. I think that's in a great spot. If I was in that ladder stand this morning, there'd be a dead doe.
It would be a dead doe. Would not be. I love that ladder stand. I tell you, I just like really hunting out of that ground blind too.
I love being on the ground. That's the thing. I mean, we talked about
but that's
that.
where for the last 2 sits I've been over there. So I've got the video to show you. They've been in our lap. They just didn't do that this morning. They're deer. We're hunting. They just didn't come over there like they had been doing that.
Yeah.
So that's all right. We could. And it might be that might be the thing to do is if we choose to go back over. So that we call that place Billy's.
Okay.
Because my best friend from high school, it's his place. His name's Billy.
Yep.
So if we go back to Billy's, probably the ladder stand is where I would lean to. It's really good on the north wind. And then we'll look down here at behind the house and kind of let you make a play. To me, the behind the house sometimes they did evidently the last 2 days they've been doing really well. They don't wait till the last 20 minutes to come out. They've been coming out,
pretty early.
When the feeder goes off at 5:30, not too long after that. But who knows? They may know that Andrew's here, and maybe I'm going to wait till the last 10 minutes to come out. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. We'll go look at that, and and see if we can't get you another whitetail under your belt. Regardless whether we get one today or not, you're going to have to come back. And you're going to have to come back and bring the wife.
She would love that.
And you put you in a deer stand, whether we do it in doe days or we do it after that. Do you have a muzzle loader?
No, I want to. I did that podcast with Kent from First Gen Hunter, and he is like, you need to get a muzzle loader.
I don't have one. I've got a guy at work that I have borrowed his twice because after rifle season closes,
you get 2 more weeks, right?
We get 2 more weeks, and we can shoot does. So sometime, like right now, the does aren't in here on our place. They're not in the best physical condition. They're not very fat.
Yeah.
They've been probably nursing. It's been hot. It's been dry. It's been a hard summer. But guess what? Come January, they're little butterballs. So I've got a guy that I have borrowed a muzzle loader twice, with the agreement that I give him some deer sausage with some of it that I make out of the does that I shoot. And the first time I did it, I was like a kid. It was so fun to go down there, and I shot 2 does in about 20 minutes right here behind the house because it's cold. They're coming to the feeder. You were talking about developing your little micro habitat. I've got this year. I have 2 oat patches planted. There's no other oat patches around here.
Yeah, and it's a magnet.
When it's cold, they love coming to that oat patch. And so I keep the does hanging around. The bucks come around. I actually have one planted here in front of the house. So at night they come out here and feed, and then they come back by the deer stand when they're going to the woods to bed. So it's a terrible little plan that I have there.
Well, it gives them, like, your strategy is almost like defense in depth. You've got all of these different little things that are going to move them along in the direction that you want them to go, and you're giving them a lot of reasons to stick around.
Sometimes it works, and sometimes they don't follow the plan.
Well, that's hunting.
Maybe I need to post the new plan, so they can read it and follow it. So that's the idea for this afternoon, and certainly looking forward to many more hunting trips. How are you? We hadn't even talked to fishing. Where are you at on fishing?
Well,
have you ever caught a redfish?
No. I can sum up my fishing journey pretty quickly.
Okay.
I grew up fishing, but it was bobber worm fishing. It was really just an excuse for my dad to drink beer.
Okay. There's a lot of guys that are like that. I'm not one of them.
Well, so my wife actually, and I'll probably talk to her about this, her dad's a big fisherman, like actually liked fishing. He had a boat for a while, did saltwater crabbing. So she's a better fisher person than I am. And she, like, when we started dating, she got me back into fishing because I stopped when I joined the military, I stopped because it was just, I don't know. It wasn't the same. It's not as fun to just cast it out and just sit there and wait. So she got me back into it, and we had a lot of fun doing, like, all freshwater stuff, really. Pickerel, which isn't a thing here, I don't think.
There is actually chain pickerel in Texas, and I talked about it in a whole different podcast. They're like in East Texas in a couple lakes.
Oh, really?
And just one of those fish that here in Texas, not a lot of people target. So.
Well, we weren't targeting them. We mostly did bluegills and bass. But we moved here. And we did a good amount of canoe fishing in New Jersey.
Yes.
Did a lot of canoe fishing. Never kayak. Actually, that's not true. I've kayak fished once. But last year, we started fly fishing. We were in Colorado on our anniversary. Went fly fishing. We did a guided fly fishing trip for trout. And boy, was that fun. And we have been fly fishing here. I've lost count of how many times we've gone fly fishing this year in Texas. And it's a lot of fun. So that's been the thing we've been doing.
I'm going to hit you with a couple things here. So I have a buddy of mine who He's got a poling skiff.
Okay.
Matt Parrish, yes, I'm talking about you. He recently decided to start guiding.
Mm-hmm.
I've been with Matt. I've met Matt through the Salty Yak. Have fished with him a lot. He's nice enough guy that he just takes me out, lets me stand on the front of his poling skiff, and he just pushes me around in the marsh and points out the redfish and lets me catch them. He's doing a little guiding now, and we've got some other friends that we've met through the podcast that are fly fishing off the front of his boat now. If you ever want to go chase a redfish on a fly off a boat, he's your guy.
Okay.
If you want to go kayak fishing, let's go.
Man.
I'll drag you to the marsh. And here's the great thing about this. Like, we might catch some slimy speckled trout. Maybe. We'll probably catch a few flounder. But there's nothing as close to hunting as in sight casting redfish, whether you do it from a boat or from a kayak. And you see him over there chasing bait, and then you sneak up on him and you make that perfect cast, and you hook him. The great thing about that, you can either put him on the stringer or you can let him go and do it again. Mm-hmm. And you can just go over. It's not like, deer hunting, when you pull the trigger, what happens?
Yeah, that's done.
The work has begun.
Mm-hmm.
This one, you take a picture of him, you let him go or put him on the stringer, and you go find the next one.
Yeah.
Sight casting redfish is as close to hunting as anything is. And pretty damn fun. And they fight amazing, and they are excellent as table fare.
This sounds like a world of fishing that I know nothing about. And I don't know. I don't think my equipment is quite up to par.
I got you covered.
Okay.
I got a kayak. I got the fishing rods. You just say when you want to go, and we'll make it happen.
Okay.
It'll be a fun time.
We will make that happen.
It'll be a fun time. What else you got?
Man, we've been going for a long time. I don't know how long it's been.
Well, I've had it recording for an hour and 42 minutes, but some of that was a little before we did the intro. So this probably run down to be about a little over an hour and a half, which is okay. They love listening to us. I'm sure.
Well, they love listening to you. This is going to be like my 19th or 20th episode. So
this has been a wonderful thing. When I started it, like I said, it was kayak fishing. But the people I have met, the stories that I have got to do with these guys. So as we're speaking right now, a group of the Salty Yak are headed to Pointe-aux-Chenes, Louisiana, to kayak fish this evening all the way till Thursday morning.
Oh, wow.
The marshes in Louisiana, amazing place to fish. And this place caters to kayak fishing. They have an old houseboat there. It's not it was a tugboat they converted to a houseboat.
What?
We rent it for $150 a day, divided by 7 guys that are living on there. No, it's not. And so anyway, great trip, but they're headed right. I was supposed to be going, but due to my new schedule, I'm not gonna be able to make that. Anyway, long story short, they're headed there right now. Just this podcast where I just wanted to help people kayak fish has grown into so much more.
Yeah.
And just the people I've met, another one right here.
Yeah, across from each other.
This is just because of the podcast and following people, it's been a great thing for me.
I hope to be able to say that a few years from now. My thing is, I started this because it was really hard for me to figure things out. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to share what I've learned for the person that's 2 years behind me or 3 years behind me that's trying to learn the hard way, and maybe I can help them with it being a little less difficult.
We started deer hunting in my family when I was in freshman in high school. So we just moved out here to this property out here, and just started deer hunting. Didn't know anything about it. Daddy had deer hunted a little bit. I don't know that he'd ever killed 1 or 2 deer in his life when he was younger. But then I decided I wanted to deer hunt a month earlier. I wanted to start in October. So I picked up the bow. Nobody in my family bow hunted. And, so we're talking 1982. Yeah, 82. Buying a bow and trying to figure everything out. I know the learning curve. And it is so much easier when you have somebody you're reaching people and just giving them a little shove down the right trail. And it just, lessens the learning curve, but there's still a huge learning curve.
Oh yeah.
You're going to make mistakes, right? That's part of it. Nothing worth doing or having comes easy.
No, so there's always more to learn. There's always, you can always get better.
Whatever it is. So,
yeah. So before we end it, I want to ask you, what is so I already know elk this year, you want a cow elk, you want elk really bad. What are you hoping to do next year?
I hope to get drawn for that Utah archery mule deer. If not, well, number one, we talked about the Parks and Wildlife drawing. By the time this airs, the last Parks and Wildlife drawing will have already occurred. Crossing my fingers, my last at bat to maybe get to go now guy hunting this year. Now I can still go now guy hunting. I have this wonderful friend who is a guide down in South Texas that I could pay and go on a guided now guy hunt. That's always an option. Low fence. I can hunt them with a rifle. We can hunt them with a thermal if we want to. If I want to go do that. If that doesn't happen, we're going to Arizona. We're going to go OTC January in Arizona somewhere.
Yep.
But I really, what I really would like to have happen in 2024 is to draw a Utah archery general tag and go back to Utah and chase some of those giant mule deer that I saw there. That's what I would like to do. Now, if I got to go on an elk hunt in between there too, that's fine too. That's fine too. But would be my hope for next year. What about you?
It's tough. I think a lot of it's going to depend on how my Montana hunt goes. Because
you go to Montana this year.
Yep.
In
like 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's a bull tag.
Oh, no. This is a general deer tag.
Oh, it's a deer tag.
It's mule deer or whitetails.
Okay.
I'm planning on holding out for a mule deer.
Yeah. That's like when we were in Nebraska. Me and Nicholas found mule deer. Not mule deer. We found whitetail.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm not shooting him.
Yeah. I'm going for mule deer. Yep. My buddy, Peter, he's like, I'll take either. Because he hunts, he has no choice but public land where he lives in Pennsylvania. And he's been striking out so far this season. So he's wanting a mule deer. But if a nice whitetail shows up.
Well, big old whitetail walks out in front of you. And he's got everything that trips your ticket.
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to say I wouldn't, right?
180-inch, big, massive.
Listen, this is public land, buddy. This is public land. That's not, I mean, I can't say it's not going to happen, but the chances are really slim that it's going to happen. I know. The type of habitat we're going to, I don't think there's going to be a lot of whitetail deer either, because we're focusing more on that open sage type stuff that the mule deer like.
Is there something that you're looking for in that mule deer buck?
No.
No?
Honestly, no. I just don't have the experience yet. I just want to be able to say, I shot my mule deer and then start really digging into it.
Okay. When we get done with the podcast, I'll show you some of the mule deer racks I have here. And then we'll see what you say after that.
Okay.
I've never shot a 4x4. That is my goal. I want a nice, typical, representative 4x4 mule deer. I mean, all the ones I've shot here in Texas, if I held up a whitetail rack and I held up a mule deer rack that I shot here in Texas, you might not be able to pick them apart. Maybe. We'll see. But anyway, so you're just looking for a nice mule deer.
Yeah. As of right now, that's my thing. Today. Let's just take Montana mule deer out of the question. What I'm looking for next year, I really want to go pronghorn hunting again, and I really want to do it with a bow because I'm a glutton for punishment. So that's kind of, as of right now, as of this recording, I'm looking towards, all right, how can I figure that out? And then beyond that, I've been planning a British Columbia black bear hunt, a spring black bear hunt.
Oh, wow.
I want to do that really bad.
I never wanted to hunt a bear. But when I found out that I could do OTC rifle in Arizona for $150,
yep.
And so I was like, I could go scout a unit in the spring in Arizona and hunt black bear at the same time. And they have a lot of color phase bears there.
Yep.
I'm like, I might be interested. And I hear they're good eating.
They are apparent. Well, I haven't had it, but I've heard from everyone that has that they're delicious.
So,
they're nice and fatty like beef.
Buddy of mine was in British Columbia elk hunting with a friend of his that lives there, and they ended up his buddy had a bear tag, so they ended up walking down a trail and looked over, and 30 yards away there's this black bear. Bow hunting, they take it.
That's crazy.
He said, "Man, it was meat. It was looked great. It was delicious." He goes, "The only part that bothered him is when they were skinning it out." He said, "The arm and the way that it attached to the chest and the pec looked like a human."
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
He said that he was kind of like looking at it and moving it like this after they'd skinned it out. And his buddy's like, "You're gonna have to stop. You're gonna have to stop doing that." So he said that was and he said it took him 5 hours because he's like, it's not like a deer that you can like pull the skin off of.
Yeah, you have to actually cut the fat off.
You have to cut it. He said, but he got like, they packed out like 50 pounds of just fat off this bear. Anyway.
Those are the two things that I'm looking forward to.
I wasn't interested in bear hunting, but I am just a little bit now. I am a little bit interested in doing bear. So, well, good. Well, let's go see if we cannot put another whitetail under your belt and see how this will go. All right?
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for inviting me out here. It's been great to meet your family, see the land, and hopefully help with your doe patrol.
Well, glad that you came out. Glad we finally got to meet face to face. This is not going to be the last double podcast that we do.
No.
All right. And as I always close this thing out, hey, y'all be safe. If you're kayaking out there, always wear your life jacket because we want every one of y'all to come home. There's somebody that loves you and wants you to come home too. We'll be talking to you guys and girls later.
All right. That wraps up this episode of the Endure Hunt Podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, as always, to watch and or listen to the podcast. Time is your most valuable asset, and I do not take it for granted that you chose to spend that time with me. I hope that you enjoyed the episode. Please reach out to Cary or myself. Let us know what you thought about it. Shoot us a DM, comment on a post on Instagram. We would love to hear from you. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.